So, today is a beautiful Saturday afternoon. The birds are chirping, the sun is shining, but I'm in the shop getting ready to pull the engine out of this 94 BMW 540. Now, I'm no stranger to these old BMWs. As you guys are aware, I have a Touring that has a 6-speed manual and a 4-liter swap. I love that car dearly. However, the engine met a premature death at just 265 miles. Kinda hurts. So, after scouring the entire country looking for the best, lowest mileage, cleanest, most verified good engine I could find, I actually bought one and it turned out it was bad. So I'm putting my white flag up and I've decided to see how good the engine is in this car. Now this car just has 98,000 miles on it, which is really low for something this old, which is kind of concerning. A lot of these engines back in the 90s, in the late 90s, they had a campaign to replace the short blocks as the sulfur content in 90s gasoline eroded the cylinder walls and caused oil consumption and low compression and hard start issues. This engine has not been replaced, and I was actually looking for an Alusil engine that had been, and I came up short-handed. So I decided to see how good this engine actually is. I did a leak down test and a compression test. It turns out this engine is perfect. I mean, it's perfect. I expected some sort of issue, at least with one cylinder, but it is absolutely perfect. So, against my better judgment, I'm going to pull the engine out of this car and reseal it, put it into my Touring. Now, there's a couple different ways to pull the drivetrain out of these cars. Obviously, if you're going to go back together with it, you want to be a little more careful. Now, this car, unfortunately, it's a parts car. It's got rust. It's been wrecked all around. All 4 wheels are pointed in different directions. It's actually kind of fun to drive in the parking lot. But I definitely wouldn't take it down the road. One way to pull the drivetrain is to pull the transmission out of the bottom and pull the engine out of the top. That's how I do it at home. However, here, just because of the type of situation, I got a lot more room up here, a lot more tools. I'm going to be pulling the drivetrain out with the subframe, the steering box, and the front suspension all as one unit. That way I can work on it on one of our rolling carts. It'll be a lot easier that way. Now, a disadvantage to doing it this way is especially on rusty climate vehicles, when you go to drop a subframe, there are 6 bolts that hold that subframe to the chassis, and I have seen those bolts break off, which would cause a whole load of other work that I really don't want to do on my wagon. Now, that car had some rust, I did some rust repair, so it has a history of being rusty, so I'm not interested in trying to see if those bolts will come out in one piece. So when I get this engine out, I'll be resealing it, pulling the transmission out of the bottom and pulling the engine out of the top. I'm going to be doing a time lapse on this. Hopefully it doesn't catch me picking my nose or doing anything else embarrassing. I'm sure it won't, but it might. Anyway, hope you enjoy. out. It put up a pretty good fight. A couple things that I found out while this was on its way out. It's definitely had a water pump, which is nice. It's had a couple oil lines replaced, which is also nice, because those are expensive. And as you guys might be able to tell in the video, there were a few things that were already done. I had to do, as I mentioned, a leak down test, and I had to be able to turn the engine over, so I already had the fan and the fan shroud out of it, and I already had the plugs and coils out of it, but that doesn't really matter. Anyway, I know I mentioned the bolts breaking off in the chassis for the subframe. Actually, the 6 that hold the engine cradle itself, those came right out. However, the rear cross member, which the control arms mount to on the passenger side, right here, that bolt, that put up a huge fight. I broke the head of the bolt off, and then I had to use a Sawzall and cut the, basically cut the subframe to where it would release and come down. I have had that happen in the junkyard and on other parts cars in the past. It's just rusty climate cars, nothing you can do about it. I tried to get it hot, I tried everything I could. I did what I had to do to get it out. I hate cutting things, but it's a sacrifice I had to make. Everything else came out pretty clean. The subframe on the passenger side, also on the actual engine cradle, did not want to release from the body. I don't know why, but it took some persuasion. But overall, came out pretty easy. Nothing was broken outside of our steering hose, who cares? And I also didn't realize it had Freon in it, and that was my mistake. Which just because the AC doesn't work doesn't mean that there isn't Freon in it. It's a lesson learned today. Outside of that, I still have to come up here tomorrow and tear this off of the subframe and get it all stripped down and clean. It'll probably be at least a week before this even starts to look like it's going to go into the touring, which is unfortunate because we're running out of good driving season. But I'll still get it done before the salty road. So that's all I really care about. I just want to drive it a few more times so that it can sit in the garage until spring next year. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the time lapse. Hopefully it works. I still have to edit that. If it doesn't work, sorry guys, it's my first time.